All right. Anyone come in? Show them who they want. Tell us forward to them. There's no way we could. I understand.
Sorry for recording in.
Okay. And I guess we can start and what I understand, Ruth is going to guide us. Eric Warhol. Harry. Bronson Town Manager.
Bruce Burks for tonight. Administrator. What happens when you have multiple titles? You forget which one you're doing.
Go ahead.
All right, so I am here tonight to review the projected chip budget, and I felt it's the best way to do that. Where I know there's two people that might not be familiar with what the chip is, tax increment finance, to go through a PowerPoint. And it's huge, so I have updated information, so it's all current. So what you're going to go through with me tonight is exactly what we have today. So tax increment financing is a legislative economic development tool that stands for, that is used by towns and states. It's administered and the rules are made up through the legislature, they are state law, and the Department of Economic and Community Development approves tax increment districts. You have to make an application for it. You have to have, they have certain criteria that you have to be set by the legislature. So the first page of this PowerPoint basically goes over what I just told you. And a tax increment finance agreement made by a municipality or city and is submitted to the state of Maine is basically a development plan. It is for the purpose of economic development, and it is to assist towns that normally don't have the funds to have an economic development department, the funds to be able to do such. All right. To go over this, you really need to understand what goes into the municipal budget because, and what the TIP does has an effect on the municipal budget. The valuation that we talk about when we're setting the mill rate is the total value of the town. That's all the real estate, the business equipment, the exemptions, etc. The total valuation of the town. Steve on the budget committee every year asks me for the initial valuation return to report I file with the state after commitment every year. And it basically gives you a whole footprint of the assessments. Tells you what the exemptions are, tells you what the tax benefits are with tree growth, farm and open space, working waterfront, veterans, charitable and benevolent. It goes through all the breakdown of how the town is assessed in the different categories, which gives you the total valuation. Then you have the budget. That's the cost to run the town. And your school assessments, of course, are prorated between 3 towns, Chester, Lincoln, and Madawaska. And your revenues are your revenue sharing and also your reimbursement your homestead exemptions, your, business equipment tax incentive plans where they have embedded, which is business equipment tax exemption. You get a portion, I still assess that property. I send a report into the state and it gives me a percentage of that back, what we've lost in tax. So that's another response. We also, education budget, is education subsidies, which is a large portion of the school budget. So your budget formula is all of these expenses and these miscellaneous revenue sources divided by that total town valuation. And that's how you get your mill rate. I haven't examined it at all. And pretty much what you're doing is the only controllable part we have is the budget. Because we don't have the authority other than when it's an individual to make it or a difference on the school budget. Because we have a committee that does that. And once that's approved by voters, it's submitted to us. So we have little or no control over that, as well as the county. But we do have control over this side. As I said, state funding comes from two sources, education and revenue sharing, and these evaluations are, I don't think a lot of people understand the fact that if I add, for instance, the Rollins Wind project that was 60 million investment in the town of Lincoln, if I had added that onto the tax roll, that would increase our valuation by 60 million. That 60 million is then reported to the state, and the state looks at that and says, they're doing better, they're getting more value, they're making more money. So we're going to reduce that education subsidy and that revenue sharing. So what TIF does, okay, so we did that, it protects that revenue sharing and education subsidy, because what it does is it basically takes that value and puts it in a separate category. That separate category, what the taxes are that are generated from that, goes into a separate account. And that's what your increment is made of. That's what your agreement. Now, the municipality can take 100% of what the taxes would be, or it can take an increment, basically work out a contract with the company that they feel would best benefit the town of Lincoln. When you add a big valuation, like the $50 million project in Rollins Wind, you would net out in taxation about 50 cents on the dollar. You get about half, because about half of that is losses in education subsidies. The other thing that stabilizes your school assessments. Those are valuation driven too. So whenever we get an increase in value, it goes into school subsidy formulas. So that price per student would go up. This in effect stabilizes that and it gives you that economic. So when you look at these agreements that we do, a lot of times in the projections, you'll see that we're actually bringing in the taxes that people thought had just added into the budget, but it stabilizes that school. So this money is set aside and it, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. You can see I've itemized the changes in value and what would happen here. And I've gone over this, no impact. All right. The funds that are set aside for TIF are very specific. They have to be spent in what's called the municipal district. So when you apply for this, you have the value of the project that is captured by the state of Maine. You report that, saying this value is what we're capturing, and the taxes we generate from that we're going to spend in what's referred to as a municipal TIF district. Now these funds can be for tourism and other things, but primarily for infrastructure and economic development. The Rollins Wind District, for instance, targets pretty much the Main Street area. Lincoln Paper and Tissue, when we had that TIF in effect, it's still in effect, but it's creating no revenue, so we don't have an economic development fund for that right now. But when it starts regenerating, that money will go back to be spent on the mill site to upgrade infrastructure, maintain, services on the site, and it will be used to pay some of the debt that we have incurred by trying to get that mill back up and running, or the mill site up and running. So I've explained the two districts. I have, probably it will be 2027. Because you gotta remember that any type of construction that happens over the summer is not taxed till the next year because your cutoff date is April 1st. So usually our construction period is from May to October. So construction that you're seeing going on right now, like for instance, the Wendy's, that will not show on the tax rolls until next year because it's not complete. So I'm anticipating construction for that bioplant in 2026. Be on the tax rolls for the first time. Okay, I just want to kind of follow this. Okay, at TIF district, we have several in town. I'm just going to go on to the districts so you know what we have currently for districts. The TIFs we currently have are the Lakeview Senior Housing TIF, the Lincoln Paper and Tissue TIF, the Rollins Wind TIF, and the Bangor Gas TIF. The Bangor Gas TIF was just rewritten. And I'll tell you what it's. The Lakeview Senior Housing TIF captures 100%, and it goes back to the company. 100%. Because when they built this project, their concern was being able to maintain rents that were affordable to low to moderate income people. And with a tax bill generated on a $1 million+ structure, they were concerned that that tax levy would be a burden on them and have them increase their rents on a regular basis. So we have that TIF that goes directly to offset the cost of rents for the owners. As I said, the Lincoln Paper and Tissue TIF is currently in place. It's got a 30-year term. The good thing about TIFs is they can be anything from 1 year to 40 years. It depends upon the contract you write with the state. And this one is for 30 years, but you can renew them at the end of the term, just like we did the Bangor Gas TIF. And I'll get into that. Once we have revenue generating, it's the plan that that money will go back to pay, as I said, the debt, some of the debt that we incurred for redevelopment of that site. Hopefully, we develop it enough that we use a little bit more, being optimistic. Development plan. I explained the development plan that we came back from the bonds and then the loans. The Rollins Wind TIF was set up for 30 years. The TIF itself initially was 60-40. Benefit of the company. After 10 years, it was 50. At the end, the town of Lincoln will capture 100%. We are currently in the 50-50, and that right now funds our events. It funds our communications department. It funds our economic development department, as you'll see in this budget. It funds portions of the recreation department. Portions of the recreation department that it funds are basically the public beaches or playgrounds and that sort of thing. Those are the things that attract people into the town and have quality of life, things like that. It also helps us. We have a reserve that was set up by the TIF committee for repairs of dams in the town of Lincoln because we weren't sure that that would be qualifying expenditure, but we took it to our attorneys and had it reviewed by the state bank, and they felt that the dams were instrumental in keeping our recreational waterfront properties intact. They most certainly were necessary for the There is a table. There's every TIF agreement has a table that has projections on what it's going to make and how it's going to affect us revenue-wise. And I can tell you that pretty much the projections were right on track. I will say that, you know, whenever you do one of these programs, you wonder if they're going to come, if you're, you know, the taxes or the development funds that you're hoping for. This one has. We had a little bit of worry a few years ago because Evergreen Power had absorbed a lot of solar projects. They absorbed Sun Edison. Sun Edison went into bankruptcy. They restructured, and for a year they didn't pay their taxes, but they came to it once the restructure was done. They came to it, and that is something I bring up later in here. That if you do have a company that goes through bankruptcy, it really will not affect your bill rate, but it will. You will not have the development funds. And I gave you a list of different things in there that identify what we're paying for, what the money can be used for, and these are all approved items through legislative policy. This is not something that the town of Lincoln sets up. This is something that's definitely in the agreement that we have with, that has been approved by the state. Bangor Gas came in, and Bangor Gas gave them a 90% of the company, 10% to the town of Lincoln. The 10% was to pay for bond payments that were involved in the West Broadway widening project. That's a joint project. Have done well with that. The condition was in the 10-year tip, that 90% was to go back into more expansion of the gas line. This did not happen. So when they came to us at the end of 10 years and said we would like to renew this agreement, we were like, well, we're not so sure because you didn't fulfill your end. And so we have an agreement now that says anything that was done prior to 2023 is now at a 70-30 split. You get 30%, you get 70. Any new is again at the 90% of the company, 10% of us. And they have a development plan to expand the gas line. If they don't come through with this or follow through with this development plan this time, there's an agreement in there to terminate immediately and up to 30% of the revenue to go to the county. Okay, and I said I explained all that. I explained. Okay, the TIF budget here is very much like the municipal budget. It does require approval by the council. This is a draft. This is very different than the municipal budget. This is an estimate. The municipal budget, when approved, goes forward as it is. Once I go to commitment and set the mill rate, this budget cannot exceed what the taxes are that it generates. So if the mill rate comes out higher and I have more revenue, I can't spend anything other than what's been approved in this budget. If it comes in less, then I go back and look through the accounts, adjust them so it fits with what we get for tax revenue. So you will see this is a draft. We will go through this, and these are currently estimates. But when you see the final TIF budget that comes out after commitment, it may look a little different. And the reason it would look a little different is the projected revenues that I have at the bottom will change by what the actual mill rate was set in the end. So does anybody have any questions about the TIF?
I've got your packet, separately.
That's not it, that is the municipal, yes, that is the.
That's
last.
the answer to our questions on the vote.
Municipal budget from 2022 current.
Members of the said this budget, town budget only, so it's only over $2 million lost back. So how do we have? So, we have a title.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, we
No, no,
I didn't know if there was like that stuff.
no, this is your meeting, it's not mine.
What I was looking for. Does a very good job explaining it. But I was hoping to see a nice combining natural gas.
That is actually in the back of this monthly report, okay? As part of the request by the town council, they always want to know the status of the different budgets in the town of Lincoln. What you have here is you have the total committed, budget for all of these. You can see it's got Rollins, TIP, it's got the Bangor gas TIP, the Lakeview housing TIP. It doesn't have the Lincoln paper and tissues in there because it's not generating any funds. Then you have it broke down to the different budgets. You have some reserve accounts that we have carried forward for use that we set up for different projects. You have the amounts that we've expended to date in this current as of April 30th. Then you have the balance that we have remaining. And also you'll see, I have the revenues, income received. In other words, I have 90% we received, and that is because Bangor Gas has not paid their second half tax, but Rollins has, and so has, I'm sorry, and it's Lakeview has. It wasn't Bangor Gas, that's why it's 90. But you can see that, I might want to change that 100% on Bangor Gas. Those two numbers are wrong. So. But, pretty much we have received most of the revenue we're expecting, and right now the budget is spent at 66.
What I was going to is the value of the tip. Every year, for example, first year, second year, it comes with the dollars. I think it's like 1.5, but like Rollins.
Yes,
1.5.
yes, yes, and the total on this would be the summary, but that's the taxes. I don't think I have the value. I can show you what I do to get the estimates, and I can certainly get you that information because I have it. Because I also keep a running audit of the different accounts on a regular basis.
Yeah, when the tip was developed, like you said, that's what.
That's in the tip agreement.
My question was, so we're doing in the course of that schedule, right? So this is all over five.
I can provide you the tip agreements, and then I can provide you a spreadsheet from, however long you want.
Primarily, what we're looking for is to go against this FY25 budget. How much revenues come from
It's anticipated the revenue at 1.5,
1.5?
right at the bottom. The total is 1.5, it's $1,338,759.45.
That's on the second page.
That's on the summary at the bottom. And last year, the estimated amount brought in was $1,499,520. That was actually what's brought in. Yeah. That is the revenue, but that doesn't give you the value that that's based on, but that's the revenue we received from the chip. Last year, we realized $1,499,522. That's what the budget is. I'm estimating, but that won't be verified until I set the mill rate. $1,538,759.50.
Based on your experience, how close are your estimates?
It weren't real close this year because I think the mill rate went up considerably. So, that's why you see such a jump in the budget. So, we weren't real close. So it depends upon what's approved municipal wise, you know, and what happens with the municipal. So I try to be as close as I can, but as I said, the end is exactly what.
break it down, that 1.2 million as well as 80% of it. And the gas 10%.
Rollins was, is probably 90% of it, but I can get you that, those figures, so you have them. I'd rather you have them in front of you than I just give you my estimates. I've worked with them for many, many years, but Rollins at 600, you can see right now, we're expecting 659,000. That's half, so that's 1.2 million.
Page 2,
That does. About 4.
And keep in mind, we have the elderly housing insurance payments, but we get none of that money. So basically, we bring it in and then we take it out. That's the one thing for accountability that, like you senior housing, you can't look at us and say, oh, you're giving us back 100% of your taxes, therefore we don't have to cut you a check. They most certainly do. We have to receive that money, and then Melissa has to cut them a check to that increment.
that makes sense. There are some gains, but it's order.
Yeah, because you have to show that you received it and that it was accounted for appropriately. The other thing when you create a TIF, you have two types of value. You have the original assessed value. The original assessed value is the value of that property before the improvements were done. That is taxable, and those taxes do come into the municipal budget. But the value after is the captured TIF. So there's a portion of, for instance, the Lakeview Senior Housing that they still have to pay.
The land itself.
Right. The Linden paper and tissue side is not so much the town when it owns it right now, because it's not generating any revenue. That's exempt right now because it's municipal property. Rollins Wind, the original land is assessed because they're leased lots to Lakeville Shores still.
How does this or
I sent the draft budget out to the TIF committee members to offer their comments and suggestions, and those are recorded in as we go through, you'll see that they are recorded in the comments. I sent it out to all the committee members and I only got feedback from one. Apparently the rest felt that was fine, but those comments are incorporated into the budget for suggestions. Sorry, Beth.
only
That's a rounding thing with the Excel program. There should be.
And actually, when it goes into Trio does not use change the budgeting side of it, so everything gets rounded out.
That's a little annoying speed, actually.
is it always rounded up?
It's always rounded up because you don't want to cut yourself short on any line item. No, rounded up, because if there's a payment that's like a debt service payment that's
There's
$659.
one column in there where
Yeah, I just like to confirm
Yeah.
because in
and
some
I'll
cases,
put changes,
Fine.
Steve, and then it carries it over again.
Around that. We round up only because we don't want to be short on the line.
I just needed to clarify
Yeah.
which formula you use.
Always up.
I'm trying to go in there a couple times, once they don't come out here like a penny off or something. But I can just-
And I just round it up when I put it in.
Particularly when it's run by computers.
Yeah.
Computer doesn't understand one penny or one minute.
It does when we're writing checks and processing bills, but it does not when we're doing budgeting.
All right, so. Any other questions? Did you want me to put together that, value and income produced over, say, the last 5 years? So you can get a copy of the, tip agreement?
more interested in the whole, go to table, runs another project. So. Evaluation, build it down.
Yeah.
It's good to know what we're going up, what we're going down.
And that's a hard one because the value decreases 2% per year on the long term. So just by depreciation on the machinery itself,
Right.
you've got a reduction of 3% a year. So how that computes when you're shifting percentages to, and you've got mill rates fluctuating in there. Yeah, it would be a good thing to look at, for sure. There's a lot of variables.
One line item here. The permanent work was 35,000. That seems to be something.
We can go, we have time. We can go through the entire budget and I can explain it to you. I mean, this year, I put together a budget and asked the departments that are affected for what their needs are. Ron Weatherby this year wanted to give them a job. Permanent. Once you pay for them, they're pretty much there for you this year. So we said, okay, we'll put it in, but obviously if you put an expense like that in, you're going to take it from another account. The only account I could see if I had any flexibility was the economic development contractual miscellaneous, because we're anticipating hopefully getting more grants. So I felt maybe we need to big this year. It was the TIP committee member, Ms. Boyson's opinion that we should leave the economic development intact. We don't know what we're going to experience. Very relevant point, and maybe reduce the less a little bit. So I put, yeah, everything else, I don't think we had a comment on anything else. CPNR, that is, the training. Are you looking at rec department?
The very parts of rec.
Yeah.
Line item 0180.
I do have the detail on the page that.
Oh, cemetery parks and recreation wages. That's for each people.
That's your lifeguards, that's your, that's lawn mowing and weeding and, the banners downtown and the flags, everything, all of that labor for your part-time summer people in just this area, not the whole town. It doesn't pay for the cemeteries, it doesn't pitch, just this area, just part-time wages attributed to that.
Any work that goes something.
So that's paid for through the municipal budget, because for me for saying this, I don't know how to make a cemetery story.
It's a pretty cemetery, but I don't think.
I
it's
know,
a
out of
destination.
respect for, the people that are buried there, the family members and everything. It should be taken care of, and it is, but it's a municipal appropriation.
I'll speak for the American Legion, the VFW, the Sons of the holidays. We do a lot of work. This is tough.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
That's just a minor point, maybe $5.
Yeah.
Anything that adds to the town. We invite people from outside of town, people from I guess well, maybe at least they have lunch or gas. It might be a big event, no festival. We all contribute.
It does all contribute, but there has to be a cutoff. and the cutoff is the district.
No, I understand that. I was just making a comment about something. What's the view?
He is getting more, he's just not getting his full, wish list.
So the increase, and then like I was saying, looks like 100,000. That's for 35 plus.
I have not changed that yet because the council has yet to vote on it. No, the town council. The town council will take into consideration what the TIP committee has recommended, and the council will make the final.
All we can do is.
Correct, and I'll put that in the notes.
This committee approved.
It is.
That department request.
It's more a recommendation. I can change it to recommendation if you like, but
It helps just. No, that does no sense, from the council. That's the point.
I see, yeah, it says approved, so. That's a huge change. Probably the appropriate one. I will say that in the economic development budget, the wages for myself and the economic development advisor are in the JIP budget. They are not in the municipal budget. Yeah.
That was your illusion at the beginning that you work for free one area and you get paid.
I feel a little smile there.
One item that hasn't got anything on it, is moral.
The Rollins Reserve will come into play if I underestimated the revenue and the town council approves the budget as it is. And I set the mill rate if I generate more income. I mentioned earlier, I can't spend it on anything else other than what's been approved. That will go into the Rollins Reserve. And that reserve account will carry forward for, like, for instance, you could see there in the reserve, there was the sidewalk project. There's the dams. So later at the end of the year, when the council looks at the TIP budget and if there's anything like that left over, like one year we had $100,000 left over in the economic development budget. They recommended that reserve, that leftover, the economic development department for next year for expenditures at that time. Who knows, there might be a playground, there might be a boat launch in development, something like that, but chances are that if I've underestimated that revenue, that will go into that reserve, and that reserve will then be designated to either stay in the reserve for unanticipated things, or be put toward a specific project, development project. And
Waiver signs and loans are listed as no.
they're not there because they were not spent in the last fiscal year, but they were carried forward, and the money is there, but it's in that reserve account. So it could be spent, but I really don't have any budget still money because it's just small work for one person to do. But anyway,
So if the money is not spent, what happens to it?
it goes in reserve. It just basically reserve account. So like, for instance, when the airport found a piece of property that would benefit development at the airport, they came to me and said, what do you have for fun? I said, well, I have some money that's undesignated. So then we went to the council, and the council voted to take $60,000 and buy a lot at the airport. The money was designated from undesignated at the tip, buy that land, and as it turns out, we now have an FAA grant that is going to reimburse the tip account that money, so then that money will go over to another project.
But the council is the only body that controls the resources.
That is absolutely
Is that how it's in the-
there is. And I don't have that, but I can tell you what it is. I have running totals of the reserve account in my audit budget. I have an audit account for every single one of the different budgets. So every time something's spent out of there, I always know what the balance is. And right now, there's the but I can't give you that exact amount. But I certainly could email it to you tomorrow.
if it's been run.
Yeah, that's fine, fund balance.
It's absolutely different. TIP money cannot be mingled with municipal money. Have to be kept separate. So when the auditors come in, they can see that we've taken in the money through the taxes that we on these accounts. We paid out our increments as per agreement with companies, and then we have these budgets to verify that we spend this money in approved districts and on approved items.
They reserves the right to audit the expenses budget annually. They almost never show up. to do it. They reserve that right statewide every now and then. Something gets we have.
In the PowerPoint presentation, you can see that we had such a big in 2012. And we had it done in 2012 was because that was the year that the then town manager reported that the town of Lincoln could not find $1.5 million in funds. Okay. That wasn't quite true. What we did was we had a mathematical error in the budget where the then treasurer, instead of taking this revenue and treating it like it is another budget in the town budget, because it's taxes that you receive from it that you spend, she took that amount and put it offsetting revenues in the budget. She double accounted. So what happened is we take $1.5 million as a revenue when it's actually an expense. You're shorting the budget by $5 million. So when it went to the paper that it was all in the TIP money, the state of Maine was like, oh, town of Lincoln is misappropriating their TIP money. So they came up and TIP was first started in Lincoln in 2006, and they did a complete audit of every budget for every calendar year and every expense that was paid for through the town of Lincoln, and they found no irregularity. The only irregularity they found was that accounting of
People know that town manager, treasurer at that time, our town. Has been told.
all I know is I, for some reason, as the assessor for the town of Lincoln, 2006 was told, keep separate monitoring sheets on the TIP budget. Keep track of what we spend, keep track of what we budget, and be able to report that at the end of the year. I don't know how I got that responsibility. had that since 2006, and the state of Maine comes in, looks at it and says there's no irregularities. I was
And that is the year that we separated the TIF from the municipal and started doing a totally separate. But
No, it was Rollins, Wind, and
yeah, I think Rollins was fairly new at that point. But it was
Rollins Wind was actually implemented, I want to say, in 2009 construction until 2011. 2011 was when we first started getting revenues from it. But the agreement was made in 2008 when we started. But we had another tip. We had a Main Street tip. That was the school building that we captured all the money from the taxes there and put in a fund to pay for the street fund. That tip is expired, that tip is full. So there were more than just the one. I can tell you that you can see in the line, only reported a lot of zero line items, like the town manager and the assessment. And that is because, for multiple years, we put a portion of multiple departments' wages in the two budget. And it was allowable by the state, but the town council felt that that would be better reduced in, percentage every year. Felt that what it was unclear picture of what actually the costs were. So they preferred to take those small percentages of wages and stuff out.
We did not take it all at once. We stepped down over 3 years.
We are to the end. The only wages we have in there now are the summer people and,
Events, what we have here is what the town needs to spend to support this event.
those are the estimates that we use and what we refer to as. Okay, we try to have the events, have activities at the events that earn income, that offset these expenses, and they do somewhat.
That was my next question. What do you think? There's an expectation for them.
Yeah. For instance, we have a item in there which is the stage that we bought for the town of Lincoln from just Bronson, who's running the stage rental company. And we wanted to get out of the business and we kept renting this stage. So we offered to sell it to us. We right now have contracts to rent that stage. That goes back into the TIF budget to offset that expenditure. And yes, if anything left over, it goes into a reserve account. We also have a policy in place that any of the vendors Moon Festival go into a reserve account. The actual fees that we make on the bounce house, or that we make selling shirts, or that we make, various other things, they go to offset the actual event, and donations from the banks and things like that go to offset the events. But the vendor fees go into a reserve account, because the idea was the time when the council set this up, the tips won't last forever. So Moon Festival is our biggest event, it's our most costly events, so we wanted to build up a reserve account so that eventually, when the TIF ended, we would have this reserve account in place to help pay for the Moon Festival. Unfortunately, they also have the right to look at these reserve accounts and use it to offset the budget if they so choose. And probably about 5 years ago, 5 years ago, they actually emptied the festival reserve account to offset the facility. So you'll see it probably has a small balance in it now. And the reason being is because they chose to offset the rate of tax.
The farmer's market.
That's a recreation department.
Economic development. One, obviously,
That contractual expenses is, my payroll, it is Steve Beck's payroll. It also pays for, legal expenses that are incurred for activities at the mill. It pays for engineering, it pays Stantec for their report on wastewater. It has paid, a multitude of expenses for different environmental firms at the mill. Legal fees, most definitely. I do in my tracking sheet, yes.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes in.
There's a lot of different factors, yeah, because I mean, we have a lot of different things going on, as you'll see in my monthly report on what we're working on right now. As far as grant applications like that, and every application we do, it seems like there's ownership title issues, there's mapping issues, there's deed description issues, there's, you have to do grant application, you have to have an environmental study done within a specific amount of time before you apply for that grant. So some of these environmental studies, you have to have certified and stuff to apply for the grant. There's a lot that goes into it, not to mention just permitting fees, application fees, and filing fees for corporations.
And you let money stick to town? The question was, almost none.
The type of contractors that we have, they're a contract, and they have to go out to bid, and they have to be by licensed professionals. And the type of work they're doing, right now I'm sending out bids for 2 grants, actually 3 grants, and I'm sending out 18 RFPs, and I think the closest energy company that I'm sending it out to, environmental engineering, is Toronto. The rest of them are mostly in southern Maine.
When we bought the mill, buy it as one single entity. So bankruptcy court sent that. I'm gone, we got all these pieces. However, no one could know at that time where Biofine or someone else's land. So we did phase 1 environmental issues. But the fact is, the actual borders and boundaries of the surveying that will, so we've had to beat this a couple of times. If the phase 1 environmental group in place where it wasn't originally, in that case, lawyers and engineers spending what I find horrifying amounts of money on that. I don't know the other way. Simple answer as to obviously, the request is. Up and down.
The increase was that I had a certain amount of estimated budget to work with. And so there were some, bigger projects that were in the budget, like for instance, Ron's request and trying to look at some other things. Annual events. There were certain areas in the budget that went up. And the West Broadway bond went up 10,000. So whenever you have those increases, you have to take them from somewhere else. You have a limited amount of money. So you have to jump in. So my thought was that because of the grants that you'll see in the economic development report and my monthly report, we're going for this year, I felt that some of these expenditures, the environmental things and legal fees, will be covered under those grants. Paid for under those grants. So I felt that we might be able to get by a little less than we had last year because of the amount of money that we're moving forward with. Now, it's an estimate.
You recommend.
That is correct. Yes. And I'm not gonna have to tell you I disagree with that, and it's my job to put together a graph and get input and go by those things. So that's what it is.
Is there anything, that whole circle of information, is there anything that you saw, you heard similar items, moved up? Overall,
The statement made was that felt that economic development is more of a priority. And that they not all at once. They need to take that the- And I would say that was. It is made up of the treasurer, town manager, myself, the town council, who is Kathy, her husband David, who is and Keith Strange is on the committee. So that is the committee.
And a couple of communications. Also,
Close to it, yeah. And of course, Steve will back to the as well. But, he's not officially on.
created the chart. Something from so far, as far as information.
I'd like to go over, what the economic development, department is doing, because I think, in my experience, because I've gone to the planning board a couple times to update them on what the economic development, being Steve Levesque, myself, and, LLIC, which is the Living Lake Innovation Board, has been moving forward doing. And, it seems like, the planning board has no clue. When I've gone to speak at public meetings like the Chamber of Commerce, they don't have any clue what we're doing. It seems like right now that the Lincoln Lakes Innovation Corp that was set up to help with economic development has the most knowledge of the activities going on. So, I just developed this month, report of what we're working on, so at least, the town council is aware, and I felt it was good information to pass along to you, the budget committee. So I just don't think people realize the amount of work that's going into economic development right now. You know, as I said, I wish I had a map here, well, I do have a map, but it can show you the different activities we're working on, but there's a lot going on right now. And,
This wildfire that was trained by non-disclosure.
so I don't know if you have any questions on the TIP budget and want to make a recommendation, or if you want to move forward to go to some of the economic development activities. we're doing right
Only, I guess I would, stand behind the six recommendation, more for 55,000. On that. I already made the comment. We can move on to the second.
Okay, the economic development department is funded through the Robinson. And basically, the charge of economic development is not economic, just economic development, it's economic and community development. So, personally, that's where your festivals come in and your activities that allow people to counter for development. Outside of what I'm going to present with these grants, I'm working with clubs to grant help repair and maintain trails, section of trails that. I'm also working with the board to an application to build another walking trail in the town, like this one to go around the hillside. I'm working with community resilience partners. Once you join, you can get, they have 75 different options for grants, and ones that were specifically identified in a community meeting as being a need for linking is to, preserve shoreline zoning. Against shoreline zoning, another one was to have a person, have a person that helps people connect to low income energy efficient programs so that they can upgrade their homes and stuff so they can afford to stay there. Because they're including their windows, their insulation, their food sources, etc. There's a lot of people, believe that there's a lot of people out there that aren't aware of these programs exist and don't even know how to fill out the application. Person is successful moving forward with that grant to be able to help. So it's not just more than that. We also currently have a community development block grant, two of them, that are going to assist CAB and services for the council. So those are ongoing projects we have, and hopefully I can tap into more for, economic development projects that are looking at cost. But the primary focus of the department is to develop that mill site, and I have here a list of current grants that we have either written or process of written or have received. And I don't know if you want me to go through these or you want to read this on your own, but an estimated budget of that site here goes down in the beginning. Structure ready for businesses to move in the tune of $7 million. In the last 2 years, we've received $7.2 million. I'm rounding that. I'm not giving you specifics. And grant funds, loan grant funds, and for those purposes, remediation, structure, etc. We have currently in process, we're waiting to hear on 46,160,000. We just recently formulated and were successful in putting through the legislature a Lincoln Mill Facility District. That was as part of the agreement with BioFine said that we would provide wastewater treatment. We were told that initial reports that the wastewater treatment plant was could be rehabbed for $2.5 million. Further studies showed that it was not usable, could not be used, so we have to build a whole new plant. The estimated cost of that is around $50 million. Different grant resources, there are no grant funds available for a wastewater treatment plant, but rural development has a low interest loan available for that purpose. They would offer that funding to the town at about close to 3% for a period of 30 years. Or if we got the legislature to approve the facilities district and loan it to the facilities district at 2% over 40 years, the town of Lincoln would not be obligated if for some reason BioFine fails or it would take basically the taxpayers off the hook for these things. So we got that passed. We successfully filed and got our site permit for the Lincoln Mill facility. So we got that transferred from Lincoln Paper and Tissue. We got our wastewater treatment permit moved to the town of Lincoln with a minor amendment, being that it's for solely for remediation purposes. We have a grant that's going to de-water the sludge and remove the sludge so we can build the facility. We have ongoing abatement projects within the BioFine site. We have abatement projects going on building 6 and 7. We have I'm sending out RFPs for abatement of building 22, the scale house. We had written 5 EPA grants. We are still waiting on one. Get the decision on that for $5 million. The others were denied and to resubmit in November for this round. So there's a lot going on, a lot that is routine. We just got a congressional direct spending allotment for $3.5 million. The purpose of that is to have Evo Street, water, sewer, storm drainage, etc. going in on that site. We have already prepared and submitted congressional direct spending for next year for 4.5. This will go off the scale road and put water, sewer, gas infrastructure in on that other entrance to the mill. The eventual idea is to connect Scale Road off Park Avenue and Depot Street through the mill. So instead of having to access it either by Cotton Avenue or Scale Road or Depot, that none connect, you get straight through on the site for ease of basically making more product or taking away, finished product. Much smoother traffic flow. And there's so much going on there. I'm sure I have forgotten something, but
Let's just touch on the BioFine contract.
the BioFine contract right now, we are going to be going back out to renegotiate. Because when they hire their engineering firm to design their plant, they can build on the 4 acres that we originally them. They found that in order to build that facility, if they had a phase when they did their presentation here to the town council, they had phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 was supposed to be the initial plan that took up building number 8. It was supposed to be an investment of $120 million and about 100 jobs. When their engineers got the design, they said, well, phase 2 was an expansion of that plant is going to add 50 to 60 more jobs, and it's going to be located adjacent to building number 8. They feel that it's more, I would say the right word, it makes sense cost-wise to do both phases right now. So they're going to come back to negotiation to actually increase the land area they're going to lease from the town of Lincoln to build the additional space onto. With the permitting and stuff that they need for, they're optimistically, they're saying 2025. With the permitting and stuff that is required through the state of Maine, it takes anywhere from 6 to 12 months, and they are just getting their design done. We're thinking that it's closer to spring of 2020.
Now, this is something we discussed before, but you just mentioned the number of jobs that would be increased. What is the economic development doing to invite people to build housing, economic housing for workers? We don't have enough housing. So, one has to go with the other. It's gotta be.
They do have to go with the other, but you have to be very cautious. They do not want to build something before there's a need. There is a need right now for affordable housing for younger people, because there is a shortage of affordable housing. There's not a shortage of housing, there's just a shortage of affordable housing. So the idea is that when they get these jobs that have wage-sustaining wages and benefits, that some of that will be remedied, because then they'll be put in a financial position where they can afford that. The other thing is once you get the jobs in here, then you can look to those things that you need to provide to people who are coming in the area.
That's the key. The people that will come into the area, when the job's open, there has to be the infrastructure to support those who are moving from outside.
We have a very high population in our area. Our area services 25,000 people, and it's not just one, it is a service hub. And I feel that there'll be a lot of people that now that are community thankful, they'll just have a shorter commute, and they'll have a more affordable, they'll have a better wage here, so they'll avoid that commute.
But in the long run, it's better for the town than the town rest.
Absolutely, it would be, but we're a small town, and you have to understand that economic development of this scope that we're looking on this sheet that I have in front of me takes time, and it takes things that can't be done at once. We are not fortunate enough to be, what is that word I'm looking for, that Bangor is, where they get grant money without even asking for it.
There are the three biggest communities by population. One of them is Bangor. With no application.
And the housing
We
is
don't
being
get it.
developed in Bangor right now, and the housing is being developed in even southern Maine by, they are entitlement communities. So they get federal funds without application. We're small, and we're considered a low to moderate income town with a small population. We have to make applications for every penny.
Also, this increase is also in the picture for you.
That's certainly the hope.
I think the housing market is that we're going to have these people. I hope some housing developers show up and get at it and build houses.
Are we at least knocking on the doors of potential developers so they can come and kick the tires a little bit? We're hoping for them to show up in the room.
We don't hope for anything.
I
Everything
think
we
we
get
might
is
make
by an effort.
the effort, but it's still.
There is nothing that here in this report that is done by hope.
Just planning. Planning does, doing some things, look at all the repercussions that should be possible. Now,
not. We have had multiple salvage companies that specialize in this type of thing, finding whatever value you can out of old mill sites, whether it be brick, whether it be timber, whether it be metal. Liquidation Corporation took over bankruptcy of the partition mill to pay the creditors or the debtors that had filed claims against the mill. They had salvage crews come in to take out whatever valuable things they have. That is why we have such a mess. Because they came in with excavators and large equipment and went right through the side of the building. Didn't care if there was asbestos in there, didn't care what the walls were like or the structure was like. And right now we're dealing with, not only, we just had an abatement firm do an RFP on the cleanup of buildings 6 and 7. When they got done, they found they were so structurally compromised that it wasn't safe to go into the basement. The only way to do the basement was demolition of the basement. So that added another $238,000 to the cost of mitigation. We were fortunate that the state of Maine had some leftover grant money, and we were able to apply and get that right away to get that done. But we are faced with that through the entire mill site.
Bankruptcy court, the job, paying whatever money they put out, credit. So we got control. It was 4 different entities claiming to sell more than that. I say they were horrible. They knocked down pieces of buildings that might otherwise be taxing conditions, not again, so we have to do it. So the amount that is left there, there's a little somewhere here and there. Money, we hear from someone that wants to be the next one to get the metal out. They're gonna make big money, we get one. Days, when they go, oh, look.
Okay. I suppose, since the ownership was different, we can go up to the people.
You can go right after all they want. How much money they have. Bankrupt corporation, gone.
They had the people who bought the mill in 2000, they were not required to set up any personal responsibility or obligation. That's the way that mortgages were written, so they could literally walk away.
Play all over the country. The military sites. All over the country. We're not in a different condition than the others. We are now leads biofund. Going forward, to set up funds to retire their facilities someday. So this guy won't be in this condition the second time through. So we get to it.
Biofine is well financed.
They have investors.
They have investors, the people for them who are doing the raising of the funds have done this sort of thing before. They are not at all fearful of the amount of money they need to raise, but they raise it all yet.
I want to introduce you to this Mr. Bronson. He is my glass is half empty. I want to introduce you to Ruth Burns, who is my glass is always half full. So you might get a little different perspective from Mr. Bronson that you get from Ruth Burns, because Ruth Burns was born and raised here and really has a vision that we can be once again what we were when I was in high school.
And I do think it's happened, and I think people that and Ruth are working toward it at a tremendous rate as fast as any such thing go. But I see some of the others in Maine who are in similar situations. Miller Fox, the airbase at Limestone, both Miller and East Miller. You can see that moving faster than most of them. And they see that as Stephen Becker's leadership, that is her doing the daily, she does the day.
That's right. Okay. Some of the items will go to our stuff.
That was it. That's all I have.
Thank you. Very, very educational.
I was ready. say, most people don't have any idea what's going on down at that program. So we don't.
So if we have all the comments or questions, we can consider it.
Yeah, that's it. I did have an answer for, Steve was wanting to know the money that is brought in every year from the hangars last week. I have the last 4 years here, and it does vary, from year to year, but it averages to be about 4,500. FY 21, we got 6,400. 22, we got $3,383. 23, we got 5,115, and currently we are just under 2,000. And Cindy gave me her billing. She has a lot of invoices that she's already sent out for these people. So I think we're still gonna hang right around that 5,000.
And so that will be total revenue.
Yeah.
The fuel.
I have the fuel right here as well.
Mhm.
The fuel, since we got the pump, we have $9,375 in income. The current year is actually down right now, because we just got a load of fuel, so we have to pay for that fuel. So currently, we've spent $7,000 more than we've taken in this current year, but we still have 3 months, and it's good summer months for people to go and purchase that fuel. So hopefully by the end of the year, at least it depends on what time of the year buys the fuel too. I did an analysis for every single fiscal year. Some years he only has to buy fuel once, some years it's twice. If he buys fuel closer to the end of the year, we don't have a chance to sell that before the end of the fiscal year, but he is at least, since we got the pump, we are up about $10,000.
Okay, well, thank you, is still revenue.
Yeah, it's paying for itself. Right.
What are we saying?
I believe currently, that would have been a better question for Stu, but I think right now we're just less than $1. Yeah,
I think I asked this question, but I can't remember the answer. We're going to charge.
no, he does not. He
There
was
are
going,
airports that are fed by the FAA nationally and not charged.
Only commercial.
Airports that have, they are a different thing, they are general aviation.
I only flew military, so never think that they just use the wrong.
they do
But I
have to
know
go
that
over
there is
here.
Huh?
The military has to go over
Well,
here.
those my old units.
Yeah, I've been out there several times when they've been out.
I do have one question. I'm supposed to follow up with information for you. Because I'm unclear if you wanted those typical projections or you were looking for future projections.
Well, the table is all.
Okay, yeah,
What's in the contract agreement, was a table to start and finish. Today, what we received,
I see what you're
and
saying.
how well we're on track.
And you also want to know the balance of the reserve account, right?
And one last, I have not done a spreadsheet on the police. But as I was looking at their contract, I did realize part of the discrepancy that you're seeing of the increase of their wages is that they get their annual raise at the beginning of fiscal year. Each officer on their anniversary date of hire also gets a raise. So,
Contract raise and step raise.
Yeah.
Step raises are.
and I do have the contract, if you want to look over it, Steve, I can email that to you.
So it's more for projection work.
Yeah.
When you sign a 3-year contract, a lot of basis. What are those all?
Yeah, and I'll scan those pages for each of the contracts and email it to all of you.
But in part, we can get that in the contract, with no way to know. The patient with us, the more years they continue with us, steps are higher. And we now have a feature in there, hire people from other police departments, can't hire people from other police departments, not match the step raises. Coming.
Years of experience carries over.
So if we hire someone who's been the police officer, back from like higher place, higher one, how do we get?
One thing I learned last week. So one of the questions that in mind, I thought about that, are the union contract. We have union wages. No union wages. The business agent will agree that the offer the wages.
So-
Dues to the union.
Yeah.
She could make it
Yeah,
better,
union dues are paid monthly by the union members, and even if they're part of the police department, and decide they don't want to be part of the union actually will prorate a fee and still charge them dues. So they cannot get away with not paying dues because they're getting the benefit of that contract.
That was what you said.
The wage does include.
Their hourly wage, we pay the union dues off of what they make every week. That's not, we don't pay the union wages for them, they pay it out of their wages. Yeah.
But we assemble that money.
Yeah.
Send it.
And on the average,
Oh,
they're
you do,
paying,
you don't.
we take it out of
I
payroll.
thought you said you wrote a check.
We do.
Police officer.
No.
He takes a check.
No, we take it out of their check weekly.
Payroll.
Yes, payroll deduction. And on average, I think they pay about $80 and $100 a month for their dues. Because it's based on, yeah, it's based on their wage. So each one of them has a different union due. The more you get paid, the more you pay the union. It is a percentage thing of their wages.
The wages are different levels, the payment, and we got to do it.
They do. Most of them are in May 1st, as a matter of fact. Like we discussed last week, most of our public safety are in May 1st because no matter where they go to work, as long as they're a firefighter or a police officer in the state, it carries over for them. So it is a very good plan for them to use. Yes, and that'll be public works, transportation, and the one line for the landfill.
Now, on May 20th, workshop,
That is a council workshop. They'll have the numbers that, I think you've changed maybe one or two lines throughout this. We have some corrections to make, the formulas, and they will be presented that, for the council to discuss. Is that close enough? You can attend.
no choice. But you present our budget to the council.
The first workshop, the council, which is for them to discuss the budget. This is last year, I think.
The format is department's request, your recommendation, my recommendation, to the council.
Rick will basically present the budget to the council. They'll have the department answer questions.
Actually, 3 parts.
Prior to the council voting now.
Along with our cost.
Correct.
Once you have the comments all consolidated, can you share them with us? So we
Yeah,
can
I'll
then
send,
make any
Yeah, I
additional
know,
recommendations.
I hate to print these all over again. Okay, is it okay to scan it and then email them to you?
Yeah, no, let me,
Because it's a lot of paper.
no,
And
since a lot of ideas are put
Yeah.
on, I think.
And then what we can do is just before the last, meeting with the council, I will fill in council numbers and then I can email that to you folks as well.
Okay. And I think some of them.
I know Steve does, because he sent me his from last year that I gave him just before the council.
No, I think if we're part of the committee, we should be here to answer questions and ask more questions.
Various people who've been on the budget committee in the past use that very way. Some show up.
Okay? Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It's Thursday.
Make us say thank you for coming out.
Lightning.